Hey guys, what's up? I'm like, just all of a sudden I got really cold. It's because my desk is right under this window and it's like fucking freezing over here. So I was cooking dinner and stuff and I come sit down. I'm like, ooh, I'm freezing. I am out of my pajamas from earlier. For those of you who are keeping score. Okay, so this video, I'm going to give everybody a minute to jump on that wanted to jump on, but this video was based off of a post I made the other day about asking people who have used an archetype wheel. I was just like asking, hey, who else uses this as like a planning tool? One of my friends and mentors showed it to me a couple of years ago, and I thought more people knew about it. So when I asked, I was like, oh, I wonder who else uses this. And then people were like, what the fuck are you talking about? I want to know. And so I had to wait till hey, mommy. I had to wait till I was in like the right state of mind because it was I teach a lot on video all day. And so I just had to wait till I had like the energy to actually tell you about it and explain myself. So here we are. If you have any questions, if you're watching the replay or you're live, if you have questions, feel free to comment along and let me know. So when this was originally introduced to me, this method, it was because basically I was in a situation where I was having a hard time setting goals. I mean, that sounds crazy, but basically I was just having a hard time setting goals. And they just I wasn't feeling connected or in alignment with any goals. And so this was brought up to me as a tool to use versus that. So instead of writing a whole bunch of goals out that I didn't feel connected to, I utilized the idea of a archetype wheel. And the goal is to revisit this wheel regularly and to really look at ways that I can embody these different archetypes in how I'm operating every single day. And so that is the idea. That's how it was originally introduced to me. And I really enjoyed it. And I actually I'll show you how I made it. And I kept it on my desk. Like I have a desk calendar and I kept it under my desk calendar. And so I revisit it frequently. And, hey, Ryan, I've been going live this week more so than I have in a long time, but thanks for being here. So to give it a little explanation before I kind of go into depth about how I work the wheel, it's that, so archetypes, for those of you who don't know, and to be very honest, I didn't really understand it at first. So I actually pulled up the definition so I could explain it to you in a better way than the way that it is in my brain. And that's obviously an archetype is it can be a type of person, but it can also be an attribute. In this capacity, you're looking at it as an attribute. It's something that you maybe want to embody or do embody and want to have more energy on or have more attention to or bring to the surface more often. This has been used back as far as I don't even remember the original century, Plato, I think, or Plato. It's literally been used for a very, 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 very long time. Archetypes have. And there's a lot of different versions. So to be super honest, if you go Google archetypes, you're going to get a couple of different lists of archetypes, which was really complicated for me to go through this year. And I ended up buying the cards because my friend has the cards. And honestly, any of you guys who are local in St. Louis and really are super duper interested in this and can't find the list, if that doesn't help you, let me know and we can get together and you can play with my cards. But so anyway, what you do, the idea is that you're going to look through the archetype types. And so there are a lot. But on this particular deck, you'll see, we'll just pull up the warrior, was the one on top. There is the light side and the shadow side, because every piece of our personality, every one of us has a light side and a shadow side, right? We have, and they all serve a purpose to making us operate the way that we do. It's not like it's bad or good. It's just a light side and a shadow side. And it's just things to keep in mind. when you're looking at that. The cool thing that I like about this the most is that it's not just like airy fairy, here's like my big hairy goals that the people I want to embody. And like you put all these like, well, at least the way I do it, you put all of these like really beautiful, amazing things that maybe you don't really want to embody, but they sound cool or really don't serve you and your purpose on this list. And then you look at them, like the purpose of it is different. The purpose of it is looking at it and saying, how can I truly embody these things and these attributes into my day-to-day life? How can I bring them into how I'm operating or how I'm engaging and how I do life, relationships, business, everything. And so it's really enlightening for me, and it really brings me back to where I want my focus to be, which is more inward on like my own finding my center more so than it is in constant outward looking and seeking. And so the thing that I like the most again about this is that in the wheel, so you pick 8, I tend to pick 9 because I have a hard time narrowing things down. But I've picked 1 to be the center, kind of like my go-to, my back to center type, and I put that in the middle of my wheel. But the other thing that they do is that there are 4 archetypes of survival. So there are 4 things that we all embody in one way or another at some point in our lives. Sometimes all the time, they just show up, and they're not the most positive archetypes. And that's why I think it's really cool, because this is just fucking realistic, right? And so I wrote those down so I could kind of explain why they show up, because it's better than my explanation. But it was, so you have the child, the victim, the prostitute, and the saboteur. So those are 4 of the survival archetypes that we all embody. We all embody the light side and the shadow side. We use them exactly for that, for survival. And a lot of times you don't even realize you're doing it. And that's what I think is really interesting about this. And I can, if you guys are interested, I can read you specifically a couple of things about each one of these, the survival ones, because it'll kind of help. There's no way I'm really going to be able to read. I can't read through all of the other cards. I mean, here's the deck, right? Like, hello. But, throw out some questions or some examples if you want to know if it's in here, something maybe you like feel called to embodying, like that sort of being or that sort of attribute, and I can look for you and read you what it says. But these survival 4, you write on your wheel no matter what. This year I actually wrote them on the external parts of my wheel. I have to remake my wheel in a pretty way because I'm going to put it on my vision board. But for now, it's just written in my journal. But so these 4 of survival represent the different issues, fears, and vulnerabilities that are present and need you to confront them and overcome them as part of your contract in this life. So basically, at all times, we all have those be present. So like, for example, the victim, we all know that, right? The victim, the light side prevents you from letting yourself be victimized or victimizing others. And then the shadow side is playing the victim for positive feedback or to be manipulative or having the inability to maintain personal boundaries. We all can say that we've fallen guilty of that at one time or another. So the prostitute, like the shadow side of the prostitute places material considerations and security above self-empowerment or self-safety. But the prostitute also is when we kind of manipulate our own, and we sell our mind, we sell our spirit, we sell things for money or for things that are going to benefit us. That's something we all do, and we don't even realize, right? But it is a part of an archetype. It's a survival tactic. The saboteur. So the shadow side of the saboteur induces self-destructive behavior, which is self-sabotage, right? And, or the desire to undermine others. And then the light side highlights your fears of self-empowerment and changes it in a way that brings it to life. The child in this particular deck breaks it down a lot into like the orphan, the wounded, the magical, the eternal, the divine. But if you're looking at like the wounded child, right, blames all dysfunctional relationships on their childhood wounds, resists moving through forgiveness. You can look at the orphan as feelings of abandonment that stifle maturity, seeking inappropriate relationships. Like there's a lot when it comes to that particular survival tactic. They break it down into several categories because it is kind of a robust one. But looking at those 4, so I can write these down too for you, like the 4 that you put on your wheel no matter what, because we all embody them. And you just kind of want them there as a representation of the fact that like these shadows and light sides of us all exist, no matter what the attributes are that you're bringing to the table, right? Michelle, I will pull that up for you in just a second. So I don't believe there's actually a warrior goddess. There's a warrior and a goddess. But I'm going to read through for you, like kind of why I did, and this is like super personal, by the way, like I'm going to get real personal. Why I did the ones I did last year and kind of show you exactly how you can help pick. So again, the place that I was in last year when I did this, like setting big goals and setting goals was like just wasn't fucking working for me. I didn't want to do it. I was ignoring them, whatever. So bringing myself back to a place of like, okay, but what I'm doing is centering me back in me, and how can I really utilize these as a growth tactic, and like how can I bring these different types of archetypes into my day-to-day life, into what I'm working towards. Like I looked at each one of them, and I could sit there and write down goals around how to truly embody this in my day-to-day life, right? And in my growth. And so last year's was like for specific reasons, and this year's is too, and I'm pretty excited about the way they turned out. But like, so this is how I actually did it. Like, you don't have to make yourself a wheel if you don't want to. I enjoy the wheel. I also wrote a list this year. I'll show you guys this year's in a minute. But like, so I put the Hermit in the middle. So like I said, I pick 9. You're supposed to pick 8, but I pick 9. I picked the Hermit for the middle because the Hermit in tarot and in the archetype, it's really bringing yourself back into your own space and into your own mindset and like listening to you versus outside influences. And that was a big thing for me last year, especially towards the end of the year, was me really honing in my own world and in my own space, my own body, and letting that be what was fueling me and focusing in there. So the Hermit, like bringing myself back to that, was so important for me last year when I had this wheel. The other ones I had was the Romantic Soulmate. That was something I never really focused a lot on, really truly embodying. The Mystic, the Storyteller, the Empath. I am a storyteller, you guys know this. The Empath, those of you who know me personally know this of me. The Goddess, the Author, the Sage, and the Adventurer. And so this really served me well last year, is I would revisit it and I would think of these and like, oh, well, I haven't really been the Storyteller lately, or I haven't really been the Mystic lately. I've been kind of closing that down a little bit. How can I really embody that archetype today or this week? So by revisiting it, that's what I would do. So you move into, I'll show you like this year's is just easier and more fun to talk about just because it's this year's. But I just wrote it in the back of my planner for now. And I actually wrote out the descriptions of each of them. And then here's my wheel. So I wrote the 4 archetypes of survival in the corners. And when I do my wheel to put on my board, like I told you, I'm going to kind of write it out pretty. So it's like on my vision board so I can see it. But this worked out really well for me last year though, honestly, like having it under my desk calendar. Like every time I would move my desk, like I would see it, or every time I moved a month, I would see it. And so it was always really fresh of mind for me. But so the cool part about it is that a lot of these personalities or like attributes, we don't always think about. And so this year I really did it a little differently. And it's funny because my friend who does this too, I was talking with her and she did the same thing, where I did it to things that I don't already 100% embody. And so it's things that I want to focus more attention on. And so that's the cool part about utilizing the wheel, which is why I was so excited about it and why I posted about it here, asking who else had potentially utilized the wheel. And so I was able to go through, and what I did was I went through the lists online and like looked, and it just wasn't, I didn't like it as much. And I could have borrowed Lisa's deck, but instead I ordered one off of Amazon. I think it was like $15 or something, but I can I can put the link here. But basically what I did was I took the whole stack and I just went through them all and picked which ones felt right for me. And then I went through that stack again. And then I set it down for a few days and I came back to it and I went through that stack again. And I had some that were very similar. And so I kind of pushed those aside and was like, which one's going to be really me reaching a little bit, like me playing a little bigger than I've used to playing. And I picked the titles or the archetypes that really fit that for me. And so I'm really stoked about it. Like, do you guys want me to share with you exactly what I wrote on here? Because I can. I just don't know if that's interesting to you or not. To answer, I think it was Michelle. Right? Yeah. To answer Michelle's question. So I don't believe that there is a warrior goddess, but I know that there is a warrior and there is a goddess. And I actually have the goddess on my wheel this year because I have worked very hard the last couple of years to really step into my own feminine energy because I never actually did that very often. Those of you who know me for a long time know that of me. So yeah. No, I don't think that there's a warrior goddess. There's not. There's a hero and a heroine. But anyway, so just so that you see, the warrior, Michelle, the light sides of the warrior is strength, skill, discipline, and toughness of will, heroism, stoic, and self-sacrifice in conquering the ego. The shadow sides is trading ethical principles for victory at any cost, indifference to the suffering inflicted on others. And then if you look at like the hero or the heroine is passion for a journey of personal empowerment, and the shadow side is escaping a false sense of heroism. And then looking at the goddess, my friend, the goddess is the feminine expressed through wisdom, natural life forces, and sensuality. And the shadow is exploitation of female nature and form. So again, these are all, it's really just finding what feels good for you. Like, what do you enjoy? Like, what do you want to embody more of? So like, if you look at mine, I did 9. I put 1 in the middle again. The Hermit is still present on this year because it's very important to me that I check back in with that. It is like I actually lost myself a bit there for like a month where I was just constantly in Tony's world, doing Tony's things, helping Tony with things, doing all Tony things. And during that, I lost me and I wasn't in my space, in my calm, in my moment. And luckily I caught it quickly. But, so the Hermit represents that for me, bringing myself back into my own power, into my own mind, and into my own space. And so I wanted that to still be present here as an inspiration for me on my wheel. And so I picked out things that you're welcome, Michelle. I hope that was helpful. I really wanted to look at what was best for me. I wish there was a way that I could really just share all of these cards with you. Because there's like mother, father, martyr, king, queen, judge, knight, meditator, messiah, priest, rebel, rescuer, scribe, servant, slave, thief, vampire, virgin, guide, advocate, companion, storyteller, fool, God, gossip, father, engineer, exorcist. Like, there's so many. Don Juan, right? Addict, artist, athlete, avenger, beggar, bully, damsel, destroyer, detective, mystic, angel, alchemist, seeker, Midas, trickster, visionary, teacher, student, shapeshifter, and mentor, and warrior. And then the ones that I have are the goddess, which I already read, the hermit, which I've already explained to you guys pretty well, the poet, which expresses soul insights in symbolic language. So I chose the poet this year over the author or the storyteller because I already am a storyteller and I already kind of am an author. And the reason the poet just spoke so much to me because it was expressing soul insights in symbolic language, which is really what I want to always embody and do. That's my point, right? Like I tell you guys all the time that I'm not always in control of what's coming out of me. I'm just like a vessel for it, right? And so that was why I chose that one instead. And then I have the healer, the lover, the networker, because I used to be a really great networker. And well, let's just say I used to spend a lot of time networking and I don't anymore. One-on-one, like I do a lot on social media, obviously, but I used to do it a lot one-on-one in real life. And I got away from it because it left a bad taste in my mouth on my old job. And but it's time and I want to get back into that. So I put that on the list because it's kind of a stretch for me. And it's something that I don't already do a lot of, and it's, so the networker enhances unity through the sharing of information, engenders social awareness and empathy. 100% fits what I'm wanting to be. And then I have the liberator, just freeing yourself and others from outmoded beliefs, releasing negative thought patterns. And then you have the pioneer, which is passion for doing and creating what has not yet been done before. And here's the one I saved for last, guys, because this is why I wanted to talk about it. They're not always going to make sense to other people, and they're not always going to be words that other people understand. So you need to realize that this is something you do for you. Utilizing these archetypes as something that you aspire to be, or that you utilize as like pushing yourself a little bit out of your own comfort zone so you can really embody these things and these personalities or these things as part of who you are. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. This is not for anyone else. This is for you. And so the one in the middle of my wheel this year, my number one focus, is the hedonist. And it's funny because I told Tony this. Tony's the only other person other than Lisa that I shared this with. And he was like, you better watch it when you say hedonist. People always think hedonist is like a really bad thing. And I'm like, well, to be fucking quite frank with you, I hadn't really ever heard of it before I started doing this last year. So apparently, though, a lot of people do have a negative connotation of a hedonist. I think it sounds fucking fabulous, and it's something that I absolutely must focus on more. And that is, inspires creative energy to embrace the good things in life, celebrates the beauty in yourself. And I don't do that. I do, but I don't do it enough. It wasn't as much of a predominant thing for me. And while this year, my words for this year are bountiful and joy, and I think that joy fits right along with the hedonist. And it's just remembering that I'm allowed to just absolutely 100% put all of my creative energy into embracing the good things in life. So that's the middle of my wheel. Do you guys have any questions? And if you're watching the replay, pop the questions in. And like I said, I will put a link. I'll actually find it right now for you for these cards if you're so inclined to have the cards for yourself to look through. If you are local in St. Louis and you want to look through them, let me know, and maybe we can just like, I'm not gonna walk you through it because that would be technically be coaching. But I would like meet up with you somewhere and I can just work on my laptop and you can go through them if you want to. We can figure something like that out. But let me find these cards for you. Now, Lisa has a different deck. This is the Carolyn Myers deck. I have a lot of other decks by her that I really enjoy. But there's a book that comes along with it that explains a lot of the things more in depth than I'm explaining them to you now, because we're also not going to be here all fucking day long. We would be on this call for a really long time if I explained it all to you in detail. I thought about that. That's also why it took me a minute to get on and do it, because I thought, you know what, should I like do a masterclass really quick, like a free one, but let people be in there and really ask a bunch of questions? And I thought, yes, I could do that. But at the same time, I could just as easily give you guys an overview. And if you have more questions, let me know. Okay. Here is a link to the deck if you're interested. But anyway, I just think it's a really cool thing. It was something that was really helpful for me when I was looking in, like I said, when I was looking into, goals. I know what I need to do, and my stuff keeps growing, and I always put out a shitload of content and blah, blah, blah. Like, I know that. And so it just didn't feel like it was on point, like it wasn't serving me, I guess I should say, at the time that I was originally introduced to this. That's why I took such a liking to it. It was because it was a different way for me to be able to expand myself, which is my number one focus these days. By expanding and deepening me, I'm able to do that and help other people too. So Anyway, I'm grateful. I'm super grateful for Lisa to introducing me to this. And I actually looked it up online just to see if there was something online I could reference and send you guys to, and there isn't. Everything that I had seen online was more of about the 12, picking 12, which would be like based upon your birth time and your birth chart and different things like that, which is a little more complicated than I wanted to do. Yeah, so Michelle, that was difficult for me to look through, that link to those different, it was just not as easy. Like the first time I did it, I was able to go through the cards and like really separate out what fit for me and stuff. And so I tried doing it that way and it just didn't feel good for me. So yes, you can definitely look at those lists, and there are different lists if you Google it, but and I'm not saying one is right or one isn't right, but there's a lot of information out there, and this was just easier for me personally. So yeah, anyways, right there on the Amazon Prime. Yeah, what is it? They're $18, so a little bit more than I thought. But anyway, that's just a little something that I wanted to share with you guys. And I hope that helps. And especially, I always think it's really interesting when you talk about the 4 types of survival that we all embody in one shape or another. So if anybody has any questions, let me know. I hope this is something that could be a cool tool for you to use in your world too. And that it can bring you as much joy and as much expansion as it's brought me. So thanks for tuning in and watching, guys. Live stream number 3 of the day. Boy, oh boy, look at me go. All right, I'm going to go finish out my day, but thanks for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a good evening. Bye.